Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. Here are the highlights. President Bola Tinubu has addressed the world leaders at the 78th United Nations General Assembly holding in New York City. It's Judgment Day in Bauchi and Kano states as the governorship election tribunals rule on petitions filed by parties over the outcome of the last elections. Plus, presidential candidate of the Labour Party and that of the People's Democratic Party filed their cases at the Supreme Court to overturn the decision of the Presidential Election Petition Court. And now the headlines. The main news. President Bola Tinubu has addressed the 78th United Nations General Assembly holding in New York City. During his speech before the world leaders, he made a firm, compelling declaration that the time is now for UN member states to show with their actions that they mean what they say concerning the crackdown on terror financing, economic sabotage, and illicit mineral and arms smuggling in the developing world, advocating for universal sanctions by United Nations for their companies and persons illegally smuggling arms and minerals into and out of Africa. A statement by the president's special advisor, Adrin Gilali, notes that the president adds that his aggressive economic development, diplomatic push for new investment has been demonstrably effective in presenting Nigeria as a business-ready location, but the ease of doing business, according to the president, might not be the major encumbrance to large-scale investments. President Bola Tinubu ended his speech reminding the world that Africa truly represents in the global village, saying Africa is nothing less than the key to the world's future. The governorship candidate, former Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, and the All Progressives Congress against INEC, the People's Democratic Party's governorship candidate, Governor Bala Mohammed, and the People's Democratic Party as the first, second, and third respondents, respectively. The petitioners are challenging the outcome of the March 18th governorship election in Bauchi State. Lead counsel to the petitioners, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, senior advocate of Nigeria, in his submission in adopting the final address, argued that the election of the second respondent be declared invalid in some areas on the grounds of non-compliance with the principles of electoral law and corrupt practices. Counsel to the second respondent, Chris Uche, senior advocate of Nigeria, in his final address, asked the court to dismiss the petition on the grounds that the petitioners failed to prove the allegations in the petition. A three-man panel led by Honorable Justice P.T. Kwaha as chairman, will deliver the judgment in the tribunal sitting in Bauchi. There is heavy presence of security in the premises, and all roads leading to the tribunal courts have been barricaded. And the Kano Governorship Election Tribunal is set to give verdict on the petition challenging the election of Abba Yusuf as the governor of Kano State. The All Progressives Congress had filed a suit challenging the electoral triumph of Governor Yusuf of the New Nigeria People's Party (NNPP), stemming from the election held on March 18. There is heavy security presence in and around the premises of the court and other strategic locations in the state. The people are also gathering at different locations ahead of the final judgment. And let's go on now to Kano State for more on what's happening there. We join our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu. Hello, Sadiq. Okay, we'll get back to Kano State. Our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu is somewhere around the court and monitoring what's happening. We'll get back there shortly. Let's move on now to Ogun State, where the police command has confirmed the arrest of 9 suspected cultists following the killing of 8 persons as rival cult groups clashed in the Shagamu area. The Commissioner of Police, Abiodun Alamutu, says land dispute has been identified as the cause of the clashes. He added that 2 guns and some rounds of cartridges were recovered from the suspects, with evidence that they were recently expended. Investigation, according to the police boss, is still ongoing. Now, I think we're going to be joined by the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Abiodun Alamutu. Mr. Alamutu, are you there? Oh, well, I understand that we have Sadiq Ilyasu right now. We'll get back to Ogun State shortly. Hello, Sadiq.
Hello, Neil, sir.
Well, good to hear your voice. How's it going over there in Kano?
Well, there is some tension in Kano as the court is about to deliver its judgment today. Actually, what is actually happening now, let me just give you a sense of what happened in the morning. A lot of journalists were here wanting to cover the court proceedings, which is expected to be delivered. Unfortunately, only 50 people are allowed in the whole of the court, inside the court. 20 people which are from the court officials and 10 lawyers from the APC, while 10 lawyers from the NNPP. Only 10 journalists are actually allowed inside the court. And what is actually happening outside is that there is a heavy security presence wherever you are going here in Kano. A lot of checkpoints, and they will stop you, especially if you are going close to the court. They will stop you and ask you where you are going to. A lot of people have people that are living around there or working around the court premises couldn't even access their offices and their homes. And some schools have actually closed down today because of the judgment. As I'm talking to you right now, by the left-hand side of me here, there are a lot of people here gathered expecting the judgment. And some of them that we spoke to them, they said that they are here in anticipation of them winning in the court, and they are expected to celebrate. You can see a lot of them. These vehicles parked all over here belong to them. They are there because there are trees, so they are staying under the trees because of the sun. So this is actually what is happening right now here in Kano State.
Okay, we understand that the judgment is going to be delivered virtually, as in meaning that the judges are not physically present in the courtroom. How is that going?
Yeah, exactly. The judgment is going on virtually. Unfortunately, we had that the court inside the court there was a network problem for a while, but later on the network was restored and the judgment is going on right now as I'm talking to you.
Okay, well, just give us an update on the mood of the people generally. I mean, of course, there'll be mixed, the NNPP supporters, APC supporters, even the PDP supporters and all of that. So what's the mood generally in Kano right now?
Well, the mood is actually suspense because a lot of people are being carried away with this judgment. A lot of people a lot of shops, in fact, didn't even open today. And a lot of people are worried after the outcome. There might be some, you know how Kano is. So they are expecting some crisis and what have you. But the Commissioner of Police have confirmed to us that they are going to take charge after the announcement of the judgment. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Ilyasu. Please endeavor to stay safe even as you keep us updated on what's happening there. Everyone around that area will be waiting to hear the judgments from the tribunal. Thank you so much, Ilyasu.
Thank you.
Our correspondent Sadiq Ilyasu in Kano, monitoring what's happening at the election petition tribunals there. The judgment, as I said, they are going to be giving out that judgment shortly. I think they would have started by now, even though that judgment has been delivered virtually. We'll take a moment and we will return. The Commissioner of Police in Ogun State should be ready to give us an update at that time, what's going on there as regards security. Don't go away. All right, let's stay with the court now. Welcome back. Well, we're staying with the court. This time we're moving to the Supreme Court, where the legal fireworks on the presidential election outcome is set to continue. The people's presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party and Labour Party are headed there. Mr. Atiku Abubakar of the PDP has filed an appeal at the Supreme Court seeking nullification of the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court, which upheld the declaration of President Bola Tinubu as winner of the 2023 presidential election. In the notice of appeal predicated on 35 grounds, Atiku maintained that the tribunal committed grave error and miscarriage of justice in its findings and conclusion in its petition challenging the declaration by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The notice of appeal also prayed the apex court to set aside the whole findings and conclusion of the tribunal on the grounds that they did not represent the true picture of the grounds of his petition. The presidential candidate maintains that the tribunal erred in law when it failed to nullify the presidential election held on February the 25th, 2023 on the grounds of non-compliance with the Electoral Act 2022. It maintains that by the evidence before the tribunal, INEC conducted the election based on grave and gross misrepresentation contrary to the principles of the Electoral Act 2022 based on the doctrine of legitimate expectation. Meanwhile, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, has also filed 51 grounds of appeal before the Supreme Court, seeking the nullification of the judgment of the Presidential Election Petition Court, the election of President Bola Tinubu. In his notice of appeal, Mr. Obi says the Presidential Election Petition Court erred in law, thereby reached a wrong conclusion when it dismissed the petition he lodged to challenge the outcome of the presidential election. He maintains that the five-member panel of the tribunal, led by Justice Haruna Samani, carried out a miscarriage of justice against him when it held that he did not specify polling units where irregularities occurred during the election. He further faulted the PEPC for dismissing his case on the premise that he did not specify the figures of votes or scores that were allegedly suppressed or inflated in favor of President Tinubu and the ruling APC. Mr. Obi also accused the panel of erring in law when it relied on paragraph 41D, 2, and 54 of the first schedule of the Electoral Act 2022 to strike out paragraphs of his petition. While accusing the lower court of breaching his right to fair hearing, Mr. Obi maintains that evidence of his witnesses were wrongly dismissed as incompetent. And going on to labor matters now, the leadership of the Trade Union Congress, TUC, has again given the federal government till next week to act on its promises or demands or risk an industrial action coming after the Nigeria Labour Congress issued a similar threat. President of the TUC, Mr. Festus Osifo, told journalists after a closed-door meeting with the Minister of Labour and Employment in Abuja that the Congress is tired of holding endless meetings and wants definite pronouncements from the president on their demands. Well, we'll hold on with that report around the Trade Union Congress and talk to the Commissioner of Police in Ogun State, Mr. Alamutu. Thank you, Mr. Alamutu, for joining us on Lunchtime Politics.
My pleasure being with you this morning.
Yeah, mix up there. Kaide Akinshila is a legal practitioner. Matters that have been filed at the Supreme Court. What was your immediate reaction? Mr. Akinshola, I asked a question earlier about your reaction to the note when you heard about the notice of appeal filed by the PDP and the Labour Party at the Supreme Court.
Yes, thank you so much, Nota, and thanks so much for having me. My reaction is that it's so surprising to me because when the judgment of the tribunal was actually read in the open, everybody who is a lawyer that is very detailed will see how lucid the judgment was. And when both Labour Party and PDP, they said they want to go to Court of Appeal, I was actually expecting that we are going to have something more, which is going to be a bit of outside the scope of what were shared by the tribunal. It's neither here nor there, but the Labour Party, they have filed 51 grounds, while the PDP, as well as Atiku Abubakar, filed 35 grounds. Much importantly, the Labour Party, they have actually cited that the issue that were raised before the tribunal in relation with Section 299 of the Constitution concerning the status of the Federal Capital Territory were brought to the fore again. Now, Abuja, without prejudice to whatever thing that is filed before the Supreme Court, Abuja cannot have a special status that is different from any state in Nigeria or any state of federation. Section 299 said that emphatically, that the Federal Capital Territory will be treated, as far as the Constitution is concerned, will be treated as a state. So seeing them going to Supreme Court, it is still part of the electoral process. Both the Labour Party and the PDP, it is still within the ambit of their law. They can still test the law, they can still explore those options, but let's see how it goes. But I was surprised.
You know, but part of the grounds, or mostly the news we have is that they are basically saying the witnesses that they supplied and the evidence that they placed before the court, that the tribunal court more or less like threw out, that they feel that the court erred in law. You don't believe the court erred in law?
Now, you see, the election petition before any tribunal is sui generis. Now, if you present an evidence before a tribunal, you present a document, a paper, you must call a witness to talk to each of those pieces of evidence. Anything in contradiction will be regarded as dumping. You wouldn't expect the tribunal to begin to fish for documents, to begin to look for a witness that will speak to the evidence. Or you wouldn't expect them to go on social media to begin to look for those, evidences. They have to come before the tribunal. You have to present your witnesses. You have to present your evidences. You will now call a witness that will speak to each of those pieces of evidence.
But Mr. Akishola, if I may come in here, don't you think the time would have been a constraint to even begin to call witnesses for every evidence that you put out before the court?
Now, the challenge there is that election petition, it is one of the reasons where you see lawyers taking election petition, they charge high. If you take election petition cases, every other thing in your chamber must stop. It is a day-to-day business. It is a serious business. Now, the time within which both the Labour Party and the PDP were supposed to present their witnesses will have been done when they were actually doing their pre-hearing cases. They will have agreed. How many witnesses do you want to call? How many exhibits do you want to tender? They will have agreed on pre-hearing session. A report will be written that I'm presenting 100 witnesses. We'll begin to call them one after the other. You have 5 minutes to spend on this. Now, there is no time that, you will say that is not enough for them to present their case. But don't forget, going to Supreme Court or filing an appeal, they are not going there to evaluate or to call a witness or to present a new evidence. Everything that were presented at the tribunal level will be what they will mix law with. The lawyers, they will write their brief of arguments as well as their, respondents' brief of argument. That is what they will adopt at Supreme Court level. They are not going there to call any evidence. So the idea of not having enough time doesn't come into play here. So the all-new number of witnesses they want to call, the all-new number of pieces of evidence they want to present, and within time, they are supposed to do that before they close their case. This, I think, they will have agreed.
Oh, I want to thank you so much, Mr. Kayode Akinshaw, a legal practitioner, for joining us on this matter, even though some are arguing that maybe the Electoral Act should be amended and move the room to prove to INEC, so that INEC will have to prove that they did conduct a good election. But anyway, thank you so much, and we'll get back to you sometime to talk about these matters. And now we'll go on to Ogun State. We told you earlier that the police has confirmed the arrest of 9 suspected cultists following the killing of 8 persons as rival groups clashed in Shagamu area. The Commissioner of Police, Abiodun Alamutu, I had introduced him earlier, but he wasn't ready. Now he is ready, and he joins us to tell us exactly what the situation is as we speak in Ogun State. Mr. Alamutu, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, moderator. For now, normalcy has been fully restored. The truth is, for quite some time, we have in place security arrangement that will ensure palpable peace. Only for these vicious young persons to truncate this peace. For now, like you have observed, 9 principal suspects have been arrested in connection with this heinous crime, and 2 of the shotguns used in perpetrating this killing have been impounded. They were actually recovered from 2 of them.
Okay.
And the preliminary investigation confirmed that these shotguns were recently fired. It's suggestive of the fact that they were used in perpetrating. They have all been brought to one headquarters. And you want to come in?
Okay, so is there a curfew in that area right now, and how is that going?
We have partial restriction of movement, specifically from 7 in the evening to 6 in the morning. This is to stem the tide of postpone further disturbance and to give us opportunity to get at the gladiators on time. And it is actually what community is happy with the current arrangement, and the hoodlums, they have all fled from Prince of Shagamu, but we are going after them, get at them.
All right. So how do we ensure that this kind of a clash or these kinds of clashes do not reoccur? How do we maintain the peace in that area?
This is actually a collective responsibility. Studies have confirmed that autism is a cancer that has pervaded all our socio-political and economic fabric. But the immediate solution now to get at the sponsors while we maintain the peace that is currently in place. Additionally, there is need to revisit our legislation, especially in respect to autism. In stiffer punishment, members and perpetrators and sponsors. Additionally, we need to place a robust engagement with stakeholders, and especially our traditional rulers, community leaders, to bring it, to make it a subject of daily, or to make it a routine, to employ our people that engaging in autism can never help them. Unfortunately, before now, we are used to a culture of honesty, or steadfastness and hard work. But this get-rich syndrome has changed the narrative. People want to get rich at all costs. And although surprisingly, these are people that are not students, they are not artisans, they don't have a trade, yet they want to live larger than life. So we need sensitization and advocacy for them to know that it is only hard work.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Alamotu and Mr. Biodun Alamotu, Commissioner of Police in Ogun State. We wish you well as you endeavor to maintain the peace there. Now, we had told you earlier about the labor and the update from the meeting with the Trade Union Congress and the Minister of Labor and Productivity. TUC rose from that meeting, giving the federal government up till Friday or thereabout to ensure, till next week rather, to act on its demands or risk an indefinite strike. The president of the TUC, Mr. Osifo, told journalists after the closed-door meeting with the Minister of Labour and Employment in Abuja that the Congress is tired of holding endless meetings and wants definite pronouncements from the president on their demands.
What they have done, that he has met with the president, that he has presented to him the issues regarding wage award, that he has presented to him some of the issues raised around the CNG, he has presented as well some of the issues raised around the low-income earners being exempted from taxation, and that after looking at them, that the president also called their team to look at the what they have been doing. Our position was that by next week, when the president comes back, there should be categorical pronouncement. We've had insinuations that TUC backed out from the last strike. When you say back out, what does that mean? It means that two of us had agreed to do something, right? And at the end, you decide not to do. But I want to inform you that we were never informed. So if you say there is a crack, well, you can interpret it, but for us, and left for us, we are addressing the issues to the best of our ability and what we think will be to the best of Nigerians as well. Because what Nigerians are interested in is not the method with which you use in achieving the result. What they are interested in is result, and that is our focus.
Mr. Osifo also clarified what appears to be a rift between the TUC and the NLC leadership. Well, that's it on Lunchtime Politics. I wanted to know that you have been served. Thanks for watching. I'm Neota Ibe.